India has been performing superbly in the World Cup, and up now is England, who've been having a completely opposite tournament. To talk a little bit more about the India-England clash in Lucknow, it's my pleasure to have none other than the British High Commissioner to India, Alex Ellis. Alex, I wish we were talking in better circumstances. And I wish there was more to celebrate of the English performance in the World Cup.
They're good circumstances for India, not so for England, who are out of form at the moment, that's clear. So I'm a little bit nervous about the game on Sunday because usually England and India is a very tight game, can go either way, but at the moment India look in much better shape than England.
I'll come to the English performance in just a bit, but mathematically, England are not out of the competition.
Correct. And so
let's look at the positives.
This is the country of genius mathematicians. I ask for the help of those genius mathematicians to find a way for England to get through and get to the semi-finals. But they do look very out of form. I watched the game in Ahmedabad against New Zealand. I watched them in Delhi, here in Delhi, against Afghanistan, and the batsmen in particular look a lot out of form.
Yeah. But given that they're not technically out of the tournament, there is still a lot to play for, especially against the host India, who, as you said, are looking absolutely great, and anybody would say this is the team to beat and is so far unbeatable. What do you make of the challenge that England faces, particularly for this match?
Well, it's going to be a very partisan crowd, very intense, very supporting India, as you would expect. And there isn't so much pressure on India at the moment, I would say. The question for India, I guess, is I'm sure they will get to the semi-finals. There'll be a lot of pressure. They did it in 2011 when they were the hosts, so they would be the team to beat. South Africa looked very strong. I mean, they absolutely destroyed England bowling in Mumbai this week. New Zealand did tight. That was a tight game. New Zealand-India. I thought India did very well to win that one as well. So we'll see. But England, maybe we're playing for pride, but we should have pride. And there are some great players in that team. Yeah. It's just not quite clicking.
What did you make of the Indian batting so far? I mean, this is a batting lineup that is dominating the charts as far as the World Cup is concerned.
Yeah, it is.
And, there were so many expectations from the likes of Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma, greats of the game in their own right. And even others are continually stepping up.
They are. I mean, Rohit Sharma, I saw him when I first arrived, actually. I went to watch India play England in Chennai when Rohit Sharma scored a very good century. He looks extremely good. They're very good players. And there's also tremendous depth in the squad. I mean, you look at what the IPL has done in terms of drawing in people from all over the place. But I do think they have a massive advantage from having Jasprit Bumrah back and fit. His fitness is important, I think, because he has the X factor. Shami bowled very well the other evening as well, but I think that Bumrah staying fit, that's important. India spinners are doing well as well. Yeah. Actually, haven't been playing R. Ashwin all the time. I'm a bit of a fan of R. Ashwin. I think he's a fine bowler, but you see the strength and depth which India has, so that it can afford to leave out a player like that.
Even Hardik Pandya actually was ruled out of an injury, and India didn't really miss him as much as we suspected they will.
You're absolutely right, because I saw him when Gujarat Titans beat the Rajasthan Royals in the IPL final. I was in Ahmedabad for that, and I don't want you to think that I give bad luck to all the teams that I watch, but he was superb in that game. Actually, a very good captain too, I thought, of the Gujarat Titans. But you're right, no one's really noticed it. The team has kept going very nicely.
You mentioned a lot of these matches that you have seen all around India. Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about your love for cricket.
Very sadly, at the age of 7, I had to accept I might not play for England.
At the age of 7 itself?
Yeah, although, 50 years later, almost 50 years later, looking at the way the England's batting at the moment, I'm prepared to offer myself and see what happens. No, I think I love the game. I went to see the first World Cup final, 1975. West Indies beat Australia in the final, an amazing game. I remember vividly Clive Lloyd scoring a century. I was at Lord's in 1983 when India beat West Indies. Again, a match I'll never forget. Most vivid impressions on my mind of the Viv Richards popping the ball out towards the grandstand and Kapil Dev taking a great catch. I also remember the fans running onto the pitch at the end. There's kind of complete anarchy.
Yes, and the players running off to themselves.
Complete disbelief that this was happening. It was an amazing event. And so obviously when I came here, first thing I did was get myself down to the Chupok to watch England play India. I still play. I think we got our first match of the season next week. That's not for England, that's for the British High Commission team. And I love it. I've always loved it. It's a great game.
So what do you do on the field?
Well, not much now, Shivani, if I can be honest. I opened the batting. My first words of Hindi I learnt were to my opening partner, do tike teen nahi. The limits on my running between the wickets are definitely there. But I really shouldn't bowl ever again, Shivani. After the last time I bowled, I think that's probably the end for me in bowling.
But do tell me, I mean, you've been here quite a bit. You've spent a lot of time in India in a previous avatar as well.
Yeah.
What do you make of India's love for cricket, and how does it bring back any memories for you as an Englishman? Because this is a sport that both countries truly love.
They do. I completely agree with you. And India has this fantastic history and tradition of cricket from the late 19th century, starting in Mumbai, I guess, but then spreading around the country. And it's just something we share between the two countries, this complete obsession about this very weird game. I mean, I took an American friend along on Wednesday. We went to watch Australia-Netherlands, saw Glenn Maxwell score the fastest, I think the fastest ever 100 in a World Cup, 40 balls, including a reverse hook, which is just something, I don't think I'll ever see a shot like that again. I'm certainly not going to try and play it. I took the Portuguese ambassador, the ambassador of Portugal, to see an IPL game earlier this year. And you realise what a weird game it is.
It's tough to explain to people who don't watch it, isn't it?
Yeah, even when they watch it. My German colleague, I was watching an IPL game, and he said, they don't do very much, do they? Because a lot of standing around. But it's just something magically attractive about it. And I love watching it here because crowds here get very involved with the game. You know, when you're watching England-Afghanistan, although it was painful, the crowd was really getting into the match and obviously supporting the Afghan bowlers, Rashid Khan in particular, who was bowling beautifully. So it's just fun. It's a great experience being at a game here. I mean, it's a great experience being at a game in the UK, and I love watching cricket in the UK, but somehow playing and watching here is just that little bit different. So we'll have the men's test series coming out in January. We'll have the women's team over, who are very strong at the moment, the England women's team. They're coming over in December, I think. So it's a great opportunity to watch more of this.
Absolutely. So you will be traveling a lot around India during that time as well.
Shivani, unbelievably, my job requires me to go and watch cricket sometimes.
Okay. But do tell me, put on your cricket thinking hat and tell me, what do you think is going wrong for this English team? Because, you mentioned about the batsmen particularly not clicking.
Yeah.
You had the return of Ben Stokes.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem to have really benefited England.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're all trying to find their form. I watched Butler, who's the most beautiful player, magnificent player, and I watched him in the IPL, just played like a dream. And I was actually at the 2019 World Cup final. I was at the game as well, where he batted better than anyone else. But somehow the timing's not quite right. And once you lose confidence, I think as a collective, it's really tough to deal with. You build it over a long period of time, and it can go very fast. We haven't been able to control the run rates, particularly in the power plays. Bowlers haven't been tight enough. I think we missed Liam Plunkett. Actually, was a very effective middle overs bowler. Adil Rashid is still bowling well. He has lovely control, beautiful bowler. But they're just not performing, and it's really tough, I must say, because my job, I have a bad day, not many people notice it. If you're an international cricketer, you have a bad day, the world notices it and then comments on it, and I think that must be mentally very tough as well. But we'll see. There is always hope, and so we'll see.
No, the format of the World Cup is such that it's a pretty long group stage. You're playing 9 matches against all the other teams, so a lot of the teams are still not very out, England included. If you were to talk to the team, I mean, you travel so much, I'm sure you've had some interactions with the English team, but if you were to get an opportunity to talk to them, let's say before the next match, what are you going to tell them?
They would be really desperate if they were asking for my advice, I think.
Well, sometimes in these situations, you'll take anything you get.
I think you have to go back to being yourself. Sometimes you can lose confidence. We can all lose confidence and lose a bit of direction. And you just have to remind yourself of your 21-year-old talented self and all that brilliance which you have, and try to go back into the state of being yourself. One of the things I really like about the way that England are playing Test cricket, and they're playing beautifully over the last year and a half, they've just been wonderful to watch, is that they back themselves and they just allow themselves to be themselves. They've managed to create an atmosphere in which they're very aggressive. I think they've learned over time, I watched them in the Ashes, learned how to just temper that a little bit, but they back themselves. And I just think it's a very hard thing to do, but sometimes you have to trust in your own talent because they are wonderfully talented players.
But that baseball approach in Test cricket isn't quite, working as far as limited overs cricket is concerned, is it?
I'm not sure the problem is a lack of, too much aggression, actually. I think that, for about 6 or 7 years, England, because remember they're the world champions at 50 over and at 20 over. Yes. They won the T20 Cup, World Cup last year. They played this very aggressive style where batting very hard, going at the runs very hard, but somehow it just hasn't happened. I watched in Ahmedabad, actually, the second ball of the whole World Cup. Johnny Bairstow hit it for 6. Beautiful little flick off his legs. And you thought, yes. But they just haven't been able to come through. And Milan batted very well against Bangladesh, and he's been a form player for England, so I thought that's going to be good. Brook actually played, I thought, very well against Afghanistan. He was a bit of a standout player. In fact, he's a standout player overall. But just collectively, it hasn't come together. Yes. And that happens.
It happens. There's still time for the English fans like yourself to maybe savor a little bit better cricket from them. Because, as I said, the tournament is a long one. The format is a long one. Yeah. Fortunes can still be changed. We will, of course, hope, or at least Indian fans will hope it doesn't happen against India, even though we've been worried that maybe the law of averages will catch up with India too, and there is a hiccup, round the corner.
They usually, at some point, every team has a hiccup. The regression to the mean is a very powerful thing in maths and in life. But actually, I think that the Indian team, they do look very strong. Yeah. They look confident. They look like they have purpose. They have a kind of settled side. They know where they're going. And that, I think, England have just lost a bit that sense of purpose and that sense of being a settled side with clear thinking.
Our audiences would like to know you, since you're such a cricket buff, you played cricket yourself. Who's your favorite Indian cricketer? Current, former, any generation?
So the first Indian person I was ever aware of seeing was Bishan Singh Bedi when I must have been 8 years old. I saw him play in a final at Lord's, I think in 1976. And what a great introduction to India. I think of him because, of course, he passed away very recently. He had this very unusual combination of grace, of power, and he was brave as well. When he get hit for six, he didn't just bowl a flat one straight away. He would just sort of toss it up a little bit high, try and play the batsman into, sucker the batsman into getting out. And so I loved watching him play as a kid. Obviously, I watched Gavaskar play a lot as a kid. I remember him batting against England, almost breaking every world record in terms of a run chase. Now, they're fantastic players. I must say, I love watching Bumrah bowl. I think he brings something very different and very, very exciting.
Okay, let me ask Alex a little bit about his coming up trip to Lucknow. But I'm going to throw this question in Hindi to you because your Hindi is also something a lot of people in India have come to enjoy. तो सबसे पहले आप मुझे ये बताइए कि आप लखनऊ में जाके क्या खाना पसंद करेंगे?
सब लखनऊ का खाना सब खाना में पसंद है क्योंकि मुझे पसंद है क्योंकि ये बिरयानी बहुत स्वादिष्ट है और all those lovely desserts. लेकिन आजकल मैं नहीं बहुत खाना खाऊंगा क्योंकि मैं You reach a time where you can't eat quite so many desserts as you used to.
आप dieting कर रहे हैं?
Dieting नहीं, लेकिन cautious cautious.
Okay. One more thing I do have to ask you, since we're talking cricket and you're going to be in Lucknow to cheer the English team, and all the very best to them and to you. कुछ English team के लिए हमारे दर्शकों के through कुछ बोलना चाहेंगे, उनको कुछ message देना चाहेंगे?
मेरा message सब how do you say player? Killer. Or may the best team win. Let's hope that's England.
Okay, so let me put it this way. क्या आपको लगता है कि इंग्लैंड भारत को हरा पाएगी संडे के मैच में?
इस सवाल का जवाब नहीं करूँगा.
इस सवाल का जवाब वाकई में मुश्किल है.
बहुत मुश्किल है. इसलिए मैं डिप्लोमेट हूँ, इसलिए उच्चायुक्त हूँ. इसलिए.
All right, a diplomatic answer there from Alex Ellis. But Alex, it was a pleasure speaking to you, and it's great to be sharing this love of cricket on Kings of Cricket.
Thank you very much.
Our World Cup special. Thanks a lot for speaking to us, and let's hope the best team wins.
Thanks very much, Shivani.